Hey, it's Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for October 2022. So on October 23rd, we have a massive day in the cosmos. If you haven't listened to the intro of this October energy forecast, you can take a listen. We have Saturn going direct. We have the Sun and Venus moving into Scorpio season, and it is going to be hella intense because we're already in eclipse season. We're about to have the new moon in Scorpio eclipse energy, and this is a prime setup for what is about to take place. So if you don't know about eclipse energy, we got to expect the unexpected. Might feel like a little bit of a punishment, a little bit of a tough love life lesson, but basically the universe is sorting us out, putting us on the path that we need to be walking forward on, because many of us fail to put ourselves on said path. So karma is definitely coming at us. And when we talk about karma, we talk about Saturn. So I just want to give you a little bit of a refresher. You can go back and listen to all the different videos that I've made on Saturn as he's been moving through the signs and the transits. But basically, I'm going to take you back to 2020 when we had Pluto and Saturn and Jupiter and Mars all conjunct in Capricorn energy. And of course, that triggered this pandemic that we've been dealing with and this great awakening that we've been in. Now, Saturn in Capricorn was the destruction, the demobilization, the damage needed to the greater, grander systems and foundations such as banking and government and healthcare, this whole capitalistic situation that we had going on here. When Saturn moved out of Capricorn energy and moved into Aquarian energy, that was the rebuilding, the restructuring, the reformation, the restabilization of the collective, of society. Now, one would say, well, geez, I don't think we're done yet. I don't think we're even near the point of restructuring society. You would be right. But keep in mind that Aquarius energy is the second last zodiac sign, which means that Saturn is nearing the completion point of the zodiac wheel. Now, heads up, we are going to have a major shift March of 2023 when Pluto leaves Capricorn energy for Aquarius, and Saturn will be eventually leaving this Aquarian energy for Pisces, the last sign of the zodiac wheel. Now I'm going to do a whole different episode, a whole different forecast on what this is going to mean for us. But essentially speaking, Saturn coming out of the retrograde that he was just in for the past 5.5 months means that we are now going to see a lot of changes take place in our exterior realm, especially where the collective is concerned, where society is concerned. We are trying to unify. We are trying to basically branch off into like-minded groups and communities in order to get the support that we need in the stage of awakening that we're currently at. So I hope that makes sense, but we're going to break it down a little bit further. We have been in this retrograde, and, you know, a retrograde is when the energy can't really be used in the outside world. It's an inner realm reflection. It's an inner realm, I'm going to say, revision, restructuring, reformation of self. Now, Saturn, the Lord of Karma, rules over roles and responsibilities. He also rules over structures, foundations, constructs, such as time, if you will, such as soul contracts, karmically speaking. Almost roles and responsibilities that we feel like we have in our own individual lives, but where it is that we have certain roles and responsibilities to the greater, grander collective, to society, to the group, to the community, to the team, whichever way you want to look at it. The last retrograde that we've been in with Saturn being in Aquarius energy should have illuminated for us where it is that we have to stop putting our own wants, needs, and desires on the back burner to do what we think other people want us to do or expect us to do. There's this element, because we have to bring in the fact that Aquarius energy sits across from Leo energy. Leo is the heart and soul of the zodiac. It is our own individual uniqueness. It is the skills and the talents that we bring to our own lives, the happiness, the creativity, the playfulness that we bring to our own lives, the expression of our thoughts, of our heart space in our own lives, the path of passion and desire that we need to pursue in our own lives in order to be happy, in order to encompass love. Why does that matter? Because we have to do what is right for us to reach the vibrations and frequencies of the higher realms of love in order to affect the collective. But we have Saturn sitting across from this Leo energy, which means that, hey, Saturn's going to block us from doing what is right for us, for expressing ourselves, for putting our own wants, needs, and desires at the top of the list for pursuit. Why? Because there's a social responsibility that we have to focus on right now to reconstruct, reform, rebuild, restructure society. And as we're taking a good look around, we do have to understand that the Aquarian energy is about the group, is about the team, is about the collective. Now, Aquarian energy is the conscious collective. What does this mean? Well, we just came out of Saturn being in Capricorn energy, where we had to illuminate the evildoers, the capitalists, where it is that the banks and the healthcare and the, all these big systems and structures where they're not working for us, they're working for themselves. The Aquarian energy gives the power back to the people. But right now, the people are so freaking confused because we're going through this awakening that we don't know what to do with that. So this is why you have all these little groups, all these little communities, right? And let me just break it down in a 3D realm, because that's where many people are stuck, and that's the best instance that I can give you. You have left wing versus right wing. You have rich versus poor. You have white versus black. You have religious versus spiritual. You have women versus men. You have elite versus the people. Okay, there are so many dualistic, polarized relationships going on, but you see these little groups forming. You see vax versus unvaxxed. Okay, you see pro-science versus anti-science. You have all of these little branches of communities, and where we're finding our identity, because we're all going through a reinvention right now of self, we're rebranding ourselves. What we're finding is that to stick with a group of like-minded people that think the same way as us is empowering. It makes us feel like we have a voice, like we're being seen, like we exist in the world. But what we're getting is all of these smaller groups and all smaller communities. Now, this is the first step that needs to be taken in order to unify the collective. And we will be seeing a unification as we move through these next, I'm going to say, 5 to 10 years. But what we are seeing right now is the divide into these smaller groups and communities. And eventually, those smaller groups and communities will come together and recognize that what is dividing them is man-made and part of the plan in order to diminish us in our unification. Why? Because the minute that we unify, this virtual reality game is over. The elitists lose. We return to the one love, new earth utopia that we're all, anxiously awaiting and fighting for. So we have Saturn now coming out of this retrograde that should have taught us where it is that, we have to balance the scales. Yes, okay, we do have some social responsibilities. We do have to consider that our own individual actions in pursuit of what makes us happy, what we want to pursue in life, does have some consequences and repercussions on other people, of course. But we have to stop diminishing our own wants, needs, and desires, our own power, because we're afraid of what others may think, because we're afraid that might upset them, disappoint them, that it might make us aliens, like we are going to be the outcasts. The Aquarian energy is ruled over by Uranus, the great awakener himself. We're visionaries in this Uranus and Aquarius energy. Saturn, the Lord of Karma, has dealt out some pretty crappy hands to the collective. And karmically speaking, we have outgrown some roles and responsibilities that we've been stuck in for quite some time. And karmically speaking, we are about to boss up and take control and take power back, especially now that Pluto is direct in Capricorn energy, where it is that we have to rebuild, reform, create boundaries in our own lives so that we can do what is right for us while still doing what is right for those around us, so that we can pursue our own unique individualism and recognize that our unique individualism is essential to add to the greater, grander collective. This is all about rebalancing the scales. We're in Libra season. Now, granted, Saturn does go direct in the final hours of Libra season. We are balancing the scales karmically, so to speak. We are balancing the scales. We're at the tipping point where we are seeing the damage and destruction take place on the greater, grander collective and greater, grander stage, so that now we can take our power back. We can step up to a new place of authority in our lives. We can embody new soul contracts, step into new karmic chapters, and actually get to work piecing together what needs to be pieced together in order for us to take a step closer to unify the collective instead of further divide. It's a lot. And there's a lot going on. Even more than that, Saturn rules over structures, okay? So the structure of society is changing very rapidly. We're looking at the United States right now. They're going through their Pluto return again, where it is the end of an empire, an end of a civilization at 248 years, which is typically the downfall of a civilization. We can look to the Roman Empire for that. And typically speaking, the US is just a false illusion, a false mockery, an imitation, if you will, of the Roman Empire that fell many, many moons ago. We're watching that collective, that group, be further divided into like-minded communities. We are watching the, I'm going to say, uprising of women taking their power back, their rights back. Look at what's going on in the Middle East right now. The feminine divine story is taking her power back. This is why the earth is going through her ascension process. This is why we're going through the awakening ascension process to keep up the vibrations that we need to have in order to match Mother Earth Gaia's frequency and vibration. We are terminating the last chapter of his story in order for her story to be told. Saturn has a huge factor in our individual lives. He also has a huge hand over the greater, grander storyline that the collective is going through. In Aquarius energy, there is this push and pull. Saturn wants to hold us back. He wants to restrict us. He wants everything to stay the same. He wants tradition to continue to trump new innovations. In the Aquarian energy, we're all about progress. We're all about innovation. We're all visionary. We're all about seeing where things need to come together, where things need to change, where things need to transform. So we have this ebb and flow, this tug of war, this back and forth. Now, granted, Saturn is a traditional ruler over Aquarius, so he does have a certain amount of power here. But there is this and we can see this, especially over the last 2 years, we take one step forward and then there's 2 steps back. And then we take 2 steps forward and then there's 1 step back, especially with this whole pandemic, especially with the progress or the lack of progress in certain areas of the world to evolve, to reach a new level of enlightenment, of awareness, of freedom, of independence, of power, of control, of sovereignty. And as Saturn turns direct, we are going to see a huge shift in what it is that we need to do, taking action in order to rebuild, to restructure, to reform, to realign, to recalibrate, with the vision of the collective, which should be New Earth at this point in time. And so anytime that a planet goes from a retrograde into a direct situation, it takes a little bit of time for that particular planet to get back up to speed, to reach the particular degree that it actually went retrograde on. And for us, Saturn turned retrograde on June 4th. and it was at 25 degrees. And Saturn, now going direct, is at 18 degrees. Okay, so we have to go from 18 degrees all the way back up to 25 degrees before we are going to be in brand new territory. That's going to take some time. So we are essentially repairing. We've done the reflection phase in the retrograde. Now we're repairing some of the problems that we've identified. We are recalibrating with some of the energy, some of the focus, some of the direction that we need to be taking in our own individual lives and on the greater, grander collective. We are revising our plans. We are re-editing them to a certain degree. We are seeing where we can rebuild, where we can restructure. Keep in mind that Pluto was in a retrograde. There's a lot of death and damage and destruction and endings and closures that have taken place. In order for there to be a clean slate for us to build again. But Pluto is the great transformer. There is a certain death, destruction, damage, ending, closure needed in order for us to resurrect ourselves, for us to renew our spirit, for us to be empowered and embody the energy of the phoenix that rises from the pile of ash. So we have Saturn now, the Lord of Karma, saying, okay, you've recognized over the last 5.5 months what isn't working, what isn't strong enough to continue, where the boundaries in your life are needed in order to start doing what is right for you instead of what it is that you think is right for everybody else. Now, what are you going to do? Well, we have to rearrange some things in our life. We have to realize where it is that we need new routines, new systems in our life, new foundations in our life. What does that mean? Well, it could mean the actual earth that you're standing on. Maybe you need to move. Maybe your house and your home and your family dynamic has been the main source of pain and of suffering and of damage and of destruction. Maybe you physically need to move. When we take a look at, the dreams and the goals and the hopes and the wishes that you had, even just a couple of years ago, are you still in alignment with them? It's okay to change your mind. Maybe the foundation that you need to change, that you need to rebuild, is your plan for the future. Maybe the restructuring that is needed in your life is the people that you choose to surround yourself with, the collective, the group, the community, the team that you are surrounding yourself with. Why? Because karmically speaking, we have completed certain soul contracts that definitely have an impact in our relationships. That's why this is happening in Libra season. Libra season is about relationships. It is about restoring peace and justice and balance to the scales of our lives. And that requires us to dig deep, to work hard, to be disciplined enough, all of those topics and themes that Saturn wants us to learn the hard way in order for us to recognize what isn't working in our lives and to come up with a better plan and start building something that is going to be more encouraging, more supportive, and strong enough to actually house the new realizations, the new revelations, the new epiphanies, the new aha moments, the new vision, the new dream, the new goals that we now realize that we have to fine tune and set our sights on in order to bust free from the damage and destruction, the tough love life lessons that many of us have been going through, especially since 2020. In order to set ourselves free. The Aquarian energy is about freedom. What we realized that was holding us back, that was holding us down, that was suffocating us and sucking the life force energy out of us in 2020, Saturn in Capricorn, we need to free ourselves and liberate ourselves from in this Aquarian energy. The Aquarian energy is where we take our independence back, where it is that freedom and power to the people, our own individual sovereignty is important. And in order for us to stand on our own 2 feet and to be proud and self-identify as independent, as free, as sovereign, we have to go back to our uniqueness, our individualness, which is the Leo energy that, of course, Saturn is sitting across from. Which means that when Saturn is sitting across from this Leo energy, The Leo energy is what's in the dark. That's the shadow realm. That's where we feel bad for doing what is right for ourselves, where it is that we feel guilty for our own happiness, our own pursuit, our own passion, where it is that we feel bad for only wanting to be concerned with ourselves and say, screw everybody else. That is the shadow realm. But we have to illuminate, shine a bright light on those darker thoughts and feelings that are currently being kind of pushed and compartmentalized in the darkness. We have to shine a bright light on that, which means that we have to shine a bright light on our heart space, on what it is that makes us happy, brings us joy, on what it is that we have passion and desire and inspiration to pursue, what makes us us. Because again, you hear me talk about this time and time again. If you want to see a change in the world, be the change that the world needs. It all starts with us. We are our own inner universes. We need to raise our own vibration and frequency in our own inner realms in order to impact the collective. We need to embody our own individualism, our own uniqueness, our own skills, our own talents, what makes us us, what makes us happy, what brings us joy, what brings us pleasure, without the guilt and shame that many of us carry, thinking that people won't accept us, or that by pouring into ourselves is selfish, by putting our own wants, needs, and desires before the wants, needs, and desires of the team, of the group, of the community, of the collective, that is doing a bad thing. We have to unlearn that. Many of us brought up in conditions, taught to say and taught to think that if we put other people before ourselves, that makes us a good person. It may, but it makes us a miserable person, because we're not here to make other people happy. We're here to find our happiness. It goes hand in hand. You can't be a miserable person and make everyone else happy around you and be happy. The only way that you can be happy is to fill your cup up, to be at your absolute maximum limitless potential, so that you can give back to the people that you love, because energy is infectious. So Saturn, going direct in Aquarius, is going to be the forward motion that we need to start rebuilding, restructuring our vision, our dreams, our boundaries, our lives, our roles, our responsibilities. It is time for us to get back to the very basics of what makes us happy, what we need to free ourselves from, where it is that we need to kind of be given permission, if you will, to go after what it is that is going to make the world of difference in our own individual realm first. Understanding that our vibration and individual frequency has the power to impact the collective. When we are happy in our own realm, when we are building good systems, good routines, good karma within our own individual lives, it betters the collective. It raises that vibration, it raises that frequency, and it pushes us into a unity consciousness where we're all doing right for ourselves, by ourselves, and then coming together to benefit from the happiness, the joy, the creativity, the love that we are finding and creating in our own individual lives.